You ever see a grown woman in a power suit dry heave into a designer tote bag because of a science experiment gone sideways because that's how this all started? Well, at least how it all blew up. The image still cracks me up, honestly, and trust me, in Maple Bramble Heights, you have to hold on to the laughs where you can. Folks around here take their rules real serious. I mean, we're talking about a place where they once threatened a guy over the exact shade of blue on his garden hose, and that was a slow news week. But the real story, the one neighbors still whisper about on late walks, began with my cousin Jesse and a bag full of bioluminescent goo. Now picture this. I'm Elliot Carson, your friendly neighborhood graphic novelist and solar panel hobbyist, just trying to keep my head down and my sketch pad full. My slice of heaven is a little A-frame cabin tucked away just outside the iron grip of the HOA, surrounded by old-growth firs, a stream babbling like it's got all the time in the world, and more importantly, enough distance that I can stroll out in boxers without anyone phoning in an indecency report. My grandfather left me the place, and I guard it like treasure, especially since it's the last bit of land around here not shackled by Maple Bramble's endless bylaws. But that doesn't mean I'm off Marcia Dell's radar. Oh no, HOA President Marcia Dell, Queen of the Clipboard, is basically the final boss of petty suburbia. She once fined a widow for letting dandelions grow too aggressively yellow, which honestly is still a running joke in my friend group. The thing is, Marcia just cannot stand anything she can't control. And if she could have gotten away with running fiber optic cameras up my driveway, she probably would have tried it. So when I headed off to Seattle for a 3-day graphic novel conference and left Jesse the keys to my little sanctuary, I had a hunch something was about to go sideways. Jesse, bless his heart, is the sort of free spirit who thinks shoes optional is a valid life motto. He's a PhD candidate at Oregon State studying weird mushrooms that glow in the dark and smell like abandoned gym bags, my kind of people, honestly. But to Marcia, he might as well have been running an illegal cult. Didn't take long for her to get riled up either. First morning, I'm barely unpacked at the hotel, and I get a call from Marcia, her voice pitched like a smoke alarm, shrieking about mysterious smoke near my property. Next came a warning about unauthorized grilling, which is hilarious since Jesse is a vegan who thinks barbecue sauce is a hate crime. By day 3, she'd basically gone DEFCON 1, stomping into the woods in a full business suit and heels, determined to catch Jesse in the act of existing, I guess. What she actually stumbled onto was Jesse mid-experiment surrounded by a spore cultivation station that looked like a low-budget sci-fi set. Mason jars glowing with alien colors, camping gear everywhere, a duffel bag that Jesse labeled in big block letters, "Do not jostle." The man even had a machete for bark samples and a thermos of what he swore was fermented tree bark tea. You should have seen Marcia's face when Jesse looked up, bare-chested, grinning, and asked if anyone was allergic to radioactive frog slime. She literally dropped her phone. From there, it was chaos and slow motion. Marcia started screaming about squatters and threatened to call the sheriff, even though Jesse waved his research permit at her like a Jedi mind trick and reminded her with that annoying calm only scientists can pull off that he was a legal guest on private property. Marcia went through about 7 shades of red, snapped a dozen photos, and promised to escalate. I knew she would. This woman once got the county to send a letter about a mailbox being 1/4 inch too high. Sure enough, that evening, my voicemail started filling up with her greatest hits, municipal codes health violations. The shame I was supposedly bringing down on the whole community. By then, though, Jesse was rolling with it, and honestly, I was curious to see just how far she'd take it. Turns out pretty far. 2 days later, Marcia led a full-blown expedition up to my cabin, 3 board members, 2 nosy neighbors, and some poor teenager who looked like he'd been drafted out of bed. All of them in matching polos, armed with clipboards and the sort of grim determination usually reserved for pest control. She wanted evidence illegal habitation trespassing, and what she now insisted was environmental contamination. Now here's the twist. Jesse, half asleep, shuffles out in mushroom print boxers, clutching that infamous duffel bag. The thing is, he'd forgotten to keep the specimen cold. And inside was a rare fungus, Cordyceps variant C17. When it warms up, it releases this neon green ooze and a stench that can only be described as a blend of sulfur, rotten corn chips, and the unholy spirit of every gym sock you've ever forgotten in your trunk. Jesse pops it open to check the sample, and this wave of toxic funk rolls out thick enough to peel paint. Marcia, tough as she acts, just about loses it dry, heaves into her bag and staggers back into a blackberry bush. One board member faints in a pile of pine needles, another sprints down the trail yelling about calling the EPA. Jesse, completely oblivious, just pokes the mess with a stick, mumbling about decomposition rates and temperature fluctuations like he's alone in his lab. You know what I mean? Sometimes life hands you a moment so ridiculous you have to just sit back and watch. Marcia, half choking, threatens to call hazmat before retreating with her battered army. By morning, she'd filed complaints with the health board, the sheriff, the state environmental agency, and no joke, a letter to the governor. She was convinced Jesse was running some kind of illicit biolab. But Jesse, he's been around the block with this stuff. Within the hour, he'd already faxed over every permit, license, research authorization, even a notarized letter proving he had permission to be there. So when the health inspector actually showed up, a Dr. Patricia Vance, who, plot twist, was a fungus geek herself and had even read Jesse's work, she ended up spending an hour swapping mushroom stories and taking samples, totally impressed. Marcia, meanwhile, got a warning not to trespass or harass again. It gets better. Turns out Marcia had used HOA dues to buy hazmat suits for the board, just in case they had to inspect my property again. $2,000 spent without approval, and now those suits just hang in the community center, silent and useless, testament to paranoia and poor accounting. But the real cherry on top, next HOA meeting, Jesse somehow gets a slot in the open forum, don't ask me how, and delivers a presentation called Symbiosis and Why Mushroom People Deserve Rights Too. He shows photos of glowing mushrooms, diagrams of fungal ecosystems, and this killed me, a slideshow of Marcia mid-dry heave captioned with fun facts about spores and a gentle PSA about trespassing law. Audience is half horrified, half delighted. Kids get glow-in-the-dark stickers. Marcia tries to protest, but Jesse just grins and dangles another duffel bag, warning, "This one smells like cooked cabbage and regret." Want a demo? Marcia sits so fast her chair squeaks. Within the hour, the board votes her out, citing harassment, fiscal recklessness, and what Dave Sullivan calls a disturbing pattern of overreach. Marcia resigns, face a color no fungus could match, muttering about moving to a sterile condo where people appreciate order. Jesse, he's a legend. His Spore Avenger talk goes viral on Reddit. My cabin is now famous among mycologists worldwide. I put up a new sign, "Mycologists welcome." Karens beware. Every time Marcia drives past and sees it, I swear she gets a little more huffy. That's my trophy right there, a mix of defeat and disbelief I'll never get tired of. And, there's a lesson somewhere in all this, but honestly, I'm just glad to have my peace and my privacy back. Still, I gotta wonder, was Marcia really the villain, or was she just another neighbor who took the HOA thing a little too far? Maybe in another universe, we're all just laughing about mushroom funk at a block party instead of calling in hazmat. But hey, that's Maple Bramble Heights for you. What would you have done? Ever had your own HOA showdown or a neighbor from hell? Drop a comment and let's see whose war story tops this one.